Why get all your holiday decorations delivered through Instacart? Because maybe you only bought 2 wreaths but have 12 windows. Or maybe your toddler got very eager with the advent calendar. Or maybe the inflatable snowman didn't make it through the snowstorm. Or maybe the twinkle lights aren't twinkling. Whatever the reason, this season, Instacart's here for hosts and their whole holiday haul. Get decorations from the Home Depot, CVS, and more through Instacart and enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
And welcome back to Little Cuts, our weekly mini-sode where we dig into things that we've been watching, just watching. I'm Terry.
I'm Mary Beth, and this week we're talking about Defying Gravity, internalized female rage. Weirdly enough, I think they might go hand in hand more than you think. Depressing Danish true crime, circle-jerking zombies. And then we get into America's Kids Got Singing, and Jack becomes Batman.
He sure does.
Of course, Carter, circle jerking zombies. I'm in. Very, very, very quickly before we talk about our actual things, I have 2 movies that I'd like to suggest to people if they want something very dumb for their brain holes. And it's also 2 movies that I'm incredibly behind on, so people are going to laugh at me. I finally watched Venom, the first one.
Oh,
Absolute nonsense, but very fun to watch stoned with your friends the Friday after election night. And then the same friends came over last weekend and we watched the Dungeons and Dragons movie, which is actually so much fun and great and funny, and you don't have to know anything about D&D to enjoy it. And it just got a great sense of humor and is silly. And Gladiator 2 is easy and fun. Love to hear that. So if you are in space, and then another one I'm talking about is also, but that's a newer one, but just those 2 are streaming right now. So if you want to just watch something dumb and funny, either one. Though D&D was more actually well done to me versus Venom, but yeah.
Let's talk about Defying Gravity.
Actually, the guy who plays Fiero is very hot in this one, so kind of. But I saw Wicked.
That's Jonathan Bailey, right? Isn't Jonathan Bailey?
Yeah, Jonathan Bailey is Fiero.
He's someone else that can.
Who is he? What is he even from? I don't know what he. I think I don't know.
He's in Bridgerton. He was in Fellow Travelers
last year. Oh, okay. I don't watch Brigadoon, as Ramona Singer calls it. So.
He was in Crashing, not the Crashing that I think most people know about, but the Crashing that was co-created by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. That's where I first know him from. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I saw Wicked, and how do I start this? I love Wicked. I have loved Wicked. I was a very privileged child and had grandparents who didn't have any other grandkids, and when I was the first grandkid by a country mile, so I got spoiled by my grandparents, and they took me on some really life-changing trips when I was in school. And one of the trips they took me on was over Thanksgiving break in 8th grade. They took me to London and Scotland, and they took me to see Wicked in the West End when I was in 8th grade. And
holy shit.
Yeah, and so very much realized a very privileged stance. My grandparents, and it changed my life. It was the coolest thing ever. It was my first, no, it wasn't my first trip out of the country, but it was my first one where I was a teen. It was a teen, and it was just life-changing, and I saw Wicked on stage, and it was just the coolest thing ever. And I stayed back, I went out backstage and got signatures on my playbill and shit. And it was just a life-changing moment for 13-year-old me. And I've loved Wicked ever since. I've only seen it the one time. I'm not a big Broadway musical person. I don't follow who the different alphabas or anything. Nothing wrong with that. That is just not me. But I hadn't really engaged with Wicked outside of I loved seeing it and the music is really good. And
wait. Do you know who was Elphaba in the production you saw? It wasn't
It
my
was
gosh,
long.
my best friend Nikki is going to kill me that I can't think of what her name is off the top of my head. She was in Rent.
Oh, it was not Idina Menzel. It was not Idina Menzel.
Right.
Elphaba's the green one, and Glinda is the pink one. So everyone knows. Elphaba is the witch, the Wicked Witch of the West, and green. Glinda is pink. No, actually, and she was supposed to be there that night, because this was, like, super early before Wicked was, like, super popular. But it was our understudy, who was incredible. So I was just, like, astounded by it. And, like, whatever. It was just the coolest thing ever. And so Wicked's coming out of the movie, I was like, because I don't know, it's like so easy to mess things like that up, especially Wicked.
Well, the track record recently hasn't been the greatest for movies based on musicals, in my opinion.
Well, and I just feel like I haven't watched, so like I haven't seen like West Side Story. I am not a big musical person. Like I saw Wicked because it was a press screening, and also like it's like a huge part of my like young brain, so I had to see it. So I don't know shit about shit here, like, but I know that a lot of these movies are like very serious, and I was like, please don't make Wicked serious. It's about the fucking Wizard of Oz, and whatever. I loved it.
Good.
I had a great time. So I saw it at a press screening, but like people brought their kids, and the kids were dressed up, and there was like a drag queen dressed up as Glinda, and I was like, what is happening? Like, I don't think I like fully understood like how popular Wicked was. Like I knew, but just like children in Wicked shirts, and I was like, oh, this is not not just like a generational thing. And I was it was kind of exciting. I was really nervous if we were going to be singing. I was like not ready. No one sang, thank God, in the theater that I heard. I was very worried about it. But that was a big concern of mine. But
yeah.
Are they calling it Glicked?
I have heard about Glicked just yesterday because someone asked, I think Paul Mescal on the red carpet, if he was supporting the Gladiator.
Oh, that's right. I was like, oh God. But I was so surprised. Oh, great. The grapefruit, Liquid Death. One was surprised that with every song, I haven't listened to the Wicked soundtrack in a long time. I remembered every song. I did not sing, but I was like, oh my God, because I like listened to that soundtrack like over and over and over again for a really long time. So that was really cool. But like they did, John M. Chu, who directed it, he did Crazy Rich Asians.
Yep.
Holy shit. Incredible. Like kept the comedy of it. Also, Ariana Grande as Glinda, the Good Witch, is actually incredible. Like, she gets to act and be a ditzy blonde in a way that I loved. Like, she does Glinda very well. Cynthia Erivo, who plays Elphaba, is also incredible. They both are just amazing in the roles and with the singing and everything. And I think something that I knew was in the original play, which is basically, I'm sorry if no one knows what Wicked is. It's like the story of how basically the Wicked Witch of the West became the Wicked Witch of the West. And the movie's going to be in 2 parts, which I'll get to.
I did not know that.
Which I will get to momentarily. This is Wicked Part 1, and this is all at Shiz University, where she and Glinda go to basically like wizard college and learn how to be magic. It's basically like Harry Potter, but more fun and way less transphobia. But then like the underlying tension is that the talking animals are now being basically like oppressed, and their voices are being taken away, and they're put in cages, and and that's like a whole other subplot. This first movie is 2 hours and 40 minutes long.
Yeah, I was like, how long is this movie? Because when you said it was in 2 parts, I'm like, how long is this movie?
2 hours and 40 minutes. Which is like, I don't like fully understand, because I saw the musical, and the musical is like about that long, both acts. So they do a lot of, I don't know this, going off of what I've seen very basically on the internet, I think they tried to integrate more from the book as well, because it was a book first that I haven't read, but I think they tried to like incorporate some of the book elements more, so there's like, I guess, more like connective tissue in terms of plot. But like they split the movies up in the right place, because they have basically the entire first act, and it ends on Defying Gravity, which is the Act 1 closing song, and so like Defying Gravity ends the movie, which is exactly what I thought they were gonna do, and then they're going to flash forward to like when she's like evil. But the movie does a really incredible job about talking about like being complicit in oppression and not using your voice, and specifically about white women being complicit in places of power, and how white women are very quick to support the other, But when push comes to shove, when it really comes to when you need to be, they're not so supportive. And boy, oh boy, does this movie really, really hammer that home in a way that I was not expecting, but I'm kind of obsessed with, especially because it's Ariana Grande playing the white woman who is befriending the green woman out of like basically gain, but then they become friends and she's like, yeah, we're definitely friends, not because I want to use you for anything. And it's just, I don't remember that being as prominent in the musical. Again, I was young, but I definitely feel like they kind of pumped it up for the movie, which I deeply appreciate them doing because yeah, it's relevant. And a lot of children are seeing this, so I'm like hoping that the message is passed on to the children about, and we can't make it about race because it's just because Alphaba's green, it's just because she's green, and we can't be all weird. I mean, we can. I mean, I'm sure people will find ways to be weird about it, but it's like a very interesting, and I think because John M. Chu is not a white guy, it just feels like there's some interesting stuff going on there in a way that I love, like a very clever taking the themes and really being like, hey kids, don't do this. So yeah, I really liked it. I mean, like, if you don't have like a connection,
bestie Nikki, if you are listening, cover your ears. I'm not a fan of Wicked.
Oh no.
Okay, Nikki, you can listen again, but I will go see it with you.
What don't you like about Wicked?
I am now a little
I'm asking so I can tell you if you'll enjoy the movie or not. That's why I'm asking. It's not a judgment call on you. Oh, okay, then you're fucked. Yeah, you know you're fucked.
Yeah, I know. I was a huge musical theater gay when I was in high school and into college, and then I sort of like fell out of it, and now they're just not my bag. But like this is like Nikki's favorite, and so Nikki, I will go see it with you if you're listening. And if you're not, well, then you don't know.
It is very well done, though. Like, it's beautiful to look at.
From what I've seen.
And it looks really good. The performances are really good. You're not going to escape the music, but it's like it has such an epic feel to it in a way that the scope is incredibly impressive for what it is and for like how much of it is CG. The world is very cool. So
I was impressed with what I saw in like the trailers. So
yeah, and
it seems big.
It is like the scope is huge, and like I don't know, it's hard not to kind of just be impressed by the spectacle of it. Like, it's a spectacle. That's exactly what it is. It's like a big blockbuster. Fucking Cynthia Erivo has a Target ad now, and good for her. And she's fucking shaved head, facial piercings, and I'm like, thank God we are living in an era where like a black woman with facial piercings and like no hair is just like a face of a movie like this, and all these ad campaigns. Like, that's just neat. And like also Ariana Grande, but she doesn't need shit. Like, whatever. It's cool. It's like a cool cultural moment to participate in a way that I didn't think I was going to participate in, but I was like, oh, fuck it, all right, I get it. And Ariana Grande goes back to her Nickelodeon roots with like when she was in Victorious and was like the ditzy girl. She gets to like, oh, sorry, my brother watched a lot of that when I was younger. It's the show she was in and got her start in, and she gets to like really play that. She gets to play that up a lot in this. And also, but it's also weird because her boyfriend's in it, like the one that played SpongeBob in the SpongeBob musical, and he left his like pregnant wife for her. Do you not know about this?
No. The only thing I know about Ariana Grande is that she did a song with Troye Sivan, and then her brother Frankie was on Big Brother.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Yeah, she's dating a man who looks like a hobbit, and he plays a munchkin in the movie, and he played SpongeBob in the SpongeBob musical, which I still don't understand. Here's the thing, I don't like her music, but I listen to enough like stupid celebrity gossip podcasts to like absorb the celebrity news information, especially because the fact that like this guy left his pregnant wife, or a wife who had just had a baby, either one of those, for Ariana Grande, and they're still together, which I guess is good. But like, he's in the movie. Nepotism. Anyway, that's Wicked. If you like Wicked, check it out. If you could care less about Wicked, think about it, but like don't force yourself. But it is cool to see it in a big screen. And like if Nikki really likes it, Terry, like you'll have fun. Just don't get any of the weird pink and green themed food at any of the theaters because it all looks disgusting. And I saw a mom eat one of the pink and green popcorn things, and she goes, "That is the most disgustingly sweet thing I've ever eaten." And I was like, I could have told you that.
No, after my experience with Boo Batter ice cream from Cold Stone,
oh my
I'm
god,
never having dyed anything ever
I forgot
again.
about the Boo Batter massacre. Oh my god, yeah, that's fair. Yeah. No, there's no pink and green hot dogs, but definitely a lot of pink and green popcorn and slushies, and it's just like the nuclear neon of both of them is just like the acid was dissolving my stomach lining just looking at it. So
I'm good.
Yeah. But that's Wicked. It's in theaters. It doesn't really need any promotion, but coming from a chick who is wearing a long legs hoodie and like doesn't really like that kind of stuff, I had a good time. Anyway, speaking of internalized female rage.
Yeah, so I finally watched Your Monster.
Oh, cute. I haven't watched that yet. Is it good?
It's so okay.
Great start.
For those that don't know, this is the new Melissa Barrera movie, written and directed by Caroline Lindy, about a actress that wants to be on Broadway, who was dating this guy that was that's a director and was writing this musical about. I can't remember what the musical is called, like House of Good Women or something like that. He's writing this musical about that's very feminist about and good women, and because they're dating and she's been helping him with some of the music on it, all of a sudden he's like, "Let me get you a part. You know, you can be the lead." And then she gets cancer. And then he decides that she is too much effort because she is sick. And so he kicks her to the curb. And the movie starts with her in the hospital being let out finally after she has a spill, and then she is like distraught. And so the first part of the movie, she's moved back into her childhood home. Her mom is off somewhere. I don't remember exactly where, but she's not in it. So she is like staying at her mom's home and crying, eating a bunch of food, sulking, and doing what people do after a breakup with the person you thought you're going to spend the rest of your life with. And then she discovers that the monster in her closet from when she was a child is still there in the house. And he is now a grown-ass man monster that looks sort of like the Beast in a way. They have like this back and forth. Like at first I was a little uncomfortable with like the direction it was going, because he's like very aggressive, and like she turns up the heat and he turns down the heat, and they keep doing this fight, and then he bashes their thermostat in the wall, and it's like giving a little kind of like abusive stuff. And so I was like, I'm not really 100% liking the direction this is going. That quickly is just, it gets kicked to the side, and it's sort of like she finds this monster, and he kind of helps her become a more well-rounded person of herself, standing up to her ex. And there's a little bit of, I would say, so this is being called like a romantic comedy horror film, and I would say it's more of a romantic comedy with a splash of horror, but not a lot. I did enjoy this movie a lot. I think most of it is because of Melissa Barrera's performance. She really just sort of commits to it, and she becomes a monster fucker, which I'm all down for, 100%. But so it's based on the short story of the same name, and it sometimes feels like it might fall apart at the seams as a feature film, kind of. But while it's like a little rough around the edges, I do think it still mostly succeeds because of Melissa's fully committed performance and the exploration of internalized female rage. So it's like a cautiously recommended, but okay. I did enjoy it, and I think it's worth seeing if you're kind of in the mood. It is a little long. It's an hour and 40 minutes, and I really do think they could have cut like 20 minutes out of it, because the pacing does sort of drag in spots. but I had a good time with it, and I think the heart is in the right place with this one. So she's great in it.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've heard she's really, really good in it. And it's is it a musical?
No.
Okay. Someone called it a
Well,
musical.
I mean, it's about a musical. Like the guy's making a musical, and so there are some songs in it from the musical. I wouldn't necessarily call it a musical, but there are some
Okay.
moments where, because she decides to audition for the musical to, like, say, give a big fuck you to her ex, who's the
Yeah.
director, and so it's sort of like she gets cast as the understudy in a little bit of a
Okay.
plot derived sense. So there is some singing in this, but I don't think I would necessarily call it a musical, even though it
Okay.
has a couple musical interludes.
Neat.
If that makes sense.
Okay. No, that does, because I thought there was more music in it, which made me less likely to want to watch it. So this makes me I'm a little bit more excited to check it out.
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend it. It was a good time. I enjoyed it.
Cool.
Awesome. Let's swing wildly away from that and talk about a depressing Danish true crime.
Yeah, this has gone wildly from like Technicolor movies about women in fantastical situations to about women in tragic real situations. This is the new movie that's hitting theaters soon called The Girl with the Needle, which is directed by Magnus
Oh,
von Horn. This is the one of the other big movie movies this year. They're really getting into like I mean like they put out The Substance and now they're putting out The Girl with the Needle. Movies like really getting into the game here with like distribution, like more distribution stuff and specifically genre, like more genre. So this is a movie about it takes place during the like end of World War I in Copenhagen. So like a really, really, really exciting time. Really great time going on. Not anything bad happening in Europe after that. The war didn't go poorly. It's totally fine.
mm.
Um, it's based on a real woman. Her name was Dagmar, and she was a serial killer who essentially told people she was going to take their unwanted babies and get them adopted, and instead she killed the babies.
Oh,
And so you're following this woman. Her name is Carolina. She is doing her fucking best. Her husband has disappeared in the war. She works at a factory. She's trying to make her life better. And she ends up, through a set of depressing circumstances, working as a wet nurse with this woman and discovering that this woman kills babies instead of actually getting them adopted. And
Jesus.
she's like grapples with that. And it's as you can imagine, not the most uplifting piece of film I've ever seen. It's very much, but it's also incredibly relevant because it's all about women making these choices for themselves because they don't have access to the right amount of money to take care of their babies anymore, and they can't work if they have a baby. There was no sexual assault, which was it was like a movie where it's a lot of women going through a lot of shit, but it's not necessarily exploitative of women's pain and more of very brutally confronting women's pain, and that like women are very strong and can adapt to things in really fucked up but important ways. And it brings a lot of interesting things to the point of this woman killing these babies. I do not support the killing of babies here, everybody. Please do not come for me. But like, she's doing it because these babies aren't going to have good lives. And like, these women can't provide for them. And the refrain that was repeated throughout is like, you made the right choice. And like, the woman believes that she's doing a service, and it's tragic that that service is necessary. But I also think now, when we are actively telling women, not even just women, people who can reproduce, people with any kind of fucking like reproductive organs that are able to bear children are like freaking. I am looking to get appointments to make sure I can get more permanent birth control because I don't want children. And like, yeah, I'm in a state that just added abortion to its constitution, but what happens if a federal ban rolls out? You know what I mean? So, and there's people in red states that have to fucking flee to get reproductive health care. And yeah, this takes place during after World War One, but it's not much different. Like this could be this could happen, and it's all based in reality. Like it's a horror movie, but it's not. There's not like a monster like in the traditional sense. It's more like the horrors of what people capable of doing when they need to do it. And it's not even like trying to sensationalize it. It's just like, yeah, this is a natural kind of consequence. And that's really fucked up to like that's the most like the fucked up thing about this movie is just seeing that like what people will do and like what people have done, and it's not new, and it's harrowing, but it's like incredibly well done. It's incredibly well acted. It's all in black and white, and it kind of looks like German expressionism, which was the point. Like they wanted it to look like that. So everything is in black and white. The music is like this really weird droning electronic score, which is like so out of place, but it works so well. And it's 2 hours, so again, it's long. It's slow, and it's not like again, there is pretty graphic baby death, but it's not the whole movie. So it's not like you're watching like a ton of babies get murdered. It's actually pretty restrained. I say restrained. It's like one of those movies where like they don't shy away from it, but it's not like egregious. It's like hitting that line of like proving the point without going into like Serbian film territory in terms of like overdoing it. This is, I think, the Danish submission for the international for Academy Award nomination. I would love for it to get it, but I do not know if a movie about baby murder is going to get a nomination from the Academy. I hope it does, but yeah, probably not. But a girl can dream.
I mean, maybe as a political point.
That's what I'm saying, but also everyone in the Academy is old and white.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But I was talking about this with someone, like texting about it today. It's very good, but it's like, you know, as you have heard me describe, it's not like the most uplifting of films.
Sure doesn't sound like it.
Yeah. But it's coming to theater. It's in select theaters starting the beginning of December. So keep an eye out. It'll be on Mubi soon. But I think they're trying to get it out before the end of the year for everyone's end of year lists. So if you want to watch a weird true crime movie as part of your end of year and see where you land on it, The Girl with the Needle.
Yeah. Ugh. That sounds like a movie that I really want to see, but I have to be in the right headspace.
Yeah. Definitely got to be ready for like a 2-hour European movie about the struggles of women post World War I Europe and all the shit they had to go through. Yeah. It's definitely not like the happiest subject. Anyway, circle jerking zombies.
Speaking of Danish true crime.
Speaking of baby murder.
So this one is a very weird film. I'm
really?
Still, yeah, I know, a movie about circle jerking zombies. Weird. What? And that's sort of like I don't know, not necessarily burying the lead, because this movie is actually surprisingly like restrained for a movie in which there is the aforementioned zombie sex ritual. This is called Rumours.
Oh, is this the brain one? Is this the brain movie?
Yeah, this is the brain.
The big
movie.
brain? Yeah, I've seen this shit.
Right. You have seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Fascinating descriptor for it, I will say.
I mean, you gotta, like, you know, say something provocative to get the audience, like...
You really did.
You
got me for fucking sure. Anyway, okay.
All right, so this takes place in Germany, where the G7 summit is happening, which is, for those that might not be aware, the G7 is like the leaders of the world's kind of leading democracies: the UK, France, Japan, Canada, United States. and then Germany, are supposed to come together to sort of like draft a joint statement about the world. And there is a crisis that no one wants to talk about that's happening, never really fully explained. And right at the very beginning, they discover a bog body from like an archaeological dig, and it's really kind of gross. The skin is like very spongy, and they of course dig it up.
It's a peat
and then
bog mummy. Come on, Terry. Come on. It's a peat bog mummy. That's my favorite saying. God damn.
And they actually take it up and like take a photo with it, because of course they do. But the whole point is that they're coming together to draft this statement on the crisis, and there's a lot. It's a very talky movie.
Yes.
And it operates on like a couple different levels, sort of a social satire of the current political climate, the farce of the G7 meetings, and the ineptitude of our governing bodies to actually get anything accomplished. And then there's also some, without getting into spoilers, some sort of sly figuring in of other cultural cornerstones and technological discourses. Again, not to put a too fine a point on it, this movie is very melodramatic and soap operic in a very delightful way. Like the Canadian Prime Minister Maxime, who's played by Roy Dupuis, I apologize, French speakers, is basically like Zaddy with a man bun. And
oh my god,
he's
so hot.
He really is. And he's sort of philandering. Like there's a moment where it's suggested that he had a one night stand with the British Prime Minister. Dupuis. Thank you, Carter. Might have a one night stand with the UK Prime Minister. He's also married, and he's going through some like trauma back in his home. And then for some unknown reason that's never fully explained, although I really kind of thought it was incredibly hilarious, Charles Dance plays Edison, the American president, and Charles can do an American accent, but he is speaking completely in a British accent with this, and I love it.
I interviewed the directors and I said, that was on purpose, right? They're like, duh, of course. Like, it's only makes sense that you'd have an old British man play the American president without... Because he was like, they're like, Charles said I can do American accent. They're like, no, we don't want you to. The whole point of this movie is being ridiculous. And I was like, hell yeah. Because I figured it was, but I had to ask because I had to know. So yes, that was very much a purposeful choice on their like behalf of just being like absolute satirical goofs with this movie, which is what this movie is. It's a giant satirical goof, and I'm obsessed.
It is. I think I was going in expecting like a different kind of movie than what I got. Just because like the premise behind it sounds so primed for lowbrow humor, and again, this is a movie in which there are bog zombies that stand around a bonfire and are just going to town on their malformed, dying, shriveled up penises. But for a movie in which that happens, it is surprisingly reserved, but it's also very surreal. And this is the very first movie by Guy Maddin that I'd seen. This was directed and written by a trio of people: Evan Johnson, Galen Johnson, and Guy Maddin. And I've never seen any of their work before, so I really had no point to like work off of. But I have to say that I did find it very enthralling in a way that I was surprised by, because it is a very talky, a very reserved film for a movie in which there's a giant brain.
Yeah. No, but it's weird because it is very much like it's got play vibes, but then it gets like super bizarre. And it has this just like uncanny vibe the whole time of like, is this like in our time? It feels very much like suspended out of actual time and space in a way that is very interesting. It's like it's like alternative dimension politics and like G7 summit in a very interesting way that like I can see if you're not super into like the talkiness of it, because it's not very explicit in a lot of what it does. A lot of it is like verbal jokes, and a lot of it's very low, much lower key than you would expect in a movie like this. It's ridiculous, but it's like understated.
Yeah,
which is
absolutely. That's a
really
great way to
interesting.
describe it.
It's really interesting how they do this, like, this vibe. It's very, very specific in a way that, like, I think is very hard to get. And I think a lot of their film, I haven't seen any of their others, but I believe that this is like kind of their signature thing of like ridiculous but understated ridiculous. Like, the world is kind of insane, but the people you're focusing on are a little less insane, but like you're not quite sure what to like. It's so off kilter.
And I have to say that there is a line in here that just absolutely kills me. And there's a part where like there's this woman, and she is like, she's not speaking any language initially that anyone seems to understand at one point, but there's a moment where like she just gets tired and does the little kid on the beach like laying down, but she says, "I'm having an energy crisis," and that line just fucking killed me. Like I that is what Cass and I, my roommate and I, are gonna say whenever we're like tired and want to go take a nap, is I'm having an energy crisis. And it's so tongue in cheek. It's so understated, but like quietly humorous. It's a lot more cerebral humor than I was expecting.
Yeah,
If that
exactly.
makes
It's not.
sense.
Yeah, no, it does, because I see what you mean. Like, I know what you mean, and so they leaned into like in the advertising, they leaned into like, oh, it's silly and weird and bizarre, and it's like it's not as silly. It's not that silly. Like, it's silly,
No,
but not in the
it
way that
is,
you would
but not.
expect.
Yeah, yeah.
And
And I love the
Purina,
way
you
it
mentioned.
ended.
I know, Purina, you mentioned Shin Godzilla and making fun of bureaucracy stuff. You would like Rumors then. If you like that stuff, like the way that Shin Godzilla handles that, I would. I think you'd like Rumors. But yeah, it's a good one. Definitely like a sleeper one. I feel like from this year that not a lot of people are talking about, because it's like I think it is kind of dividing in its humor. I think if you're not on the same wavelength, you're gonna be like, this is like just bizarro. So
Yeah, Carter, definitely put that on the poster. Silly and dry as fuck. That is
yeah, that's
perfect.
exactly it. And if that's not
Perfect.
your,
That
and
sums
if
it
that's
up.
like, if that's not your vibe, that's perfectly fine. But I think silly and dry as fuck is the best way to kind of to chalk it up with Rumors.
Yeah. All right. Swerving wildly from circle jerking zombies. Let's talk about America's Kids Got Singing, aka season 6, episode 1 of 30 Rock. What did you think of this movie? Or movie?
Uh,
Of this
uh,
episode.
I I liked it so much, but it's just like too relatable, and Liz having to deal with everyone and everyone getting upset with her when she can't be available at all times to hold everyone's emotions and do things for them. I wanted to dry heave. So that's fun. Yeah, Carter, I missed a couple weeks because my brain was fucked. That's like the only excuse I have with that one. But this first episode of season 6 was incredible. Too relatable, but also that's like the big TLDR here is like that. But anyway.
Like, so the premise behind this one is that in between season 5 and season 6, Jenna, well, so NBC has created this show called America's Kids with a Z, Got Singing, and it is basically like a riff on American Idol. The America's Kids Got Talent, I think, is another one, or Kid.
Yeah.
It's basically lampooning that, and the judges are Defuan from the Queen of Jordan episodes, played by
Titus
Titus Burgess.
Burgess.
And then McEnroe, the tennis pro, who is famously like an angry guy, has a lot
Oh,
of had a
okay.
lot of temper tantrums.
Thank you, because I was like, I could Google who this man is, but then I just didn't, and I was like, I know there's a joke here that I've just
Yeah,
missed.
he's like famously like he throws his tennis. He famously like,
Yes!
has connection
Yes!
fits at tennis matches, and he is playing the nice judge on this one. And then we have Jenna Maroney, who at one point tells a kid, "Have you ever put a cigarette out on Gilbert Gottfried's neck? Because I have, and his screams were better than your singing," or something to that effect. And it's like she's basically the Simon Cowell,
Simon Cowell.
Of this show, but like vicious in a way that only Jenna can be.
Go back up your mother, Liddy. We've got Liz not wanting to deal with anyone's shit anymore, and Tracy wanting to figure out why. Then Kenneth believes the world is ending, and it is the day before the world is going to end, and he's doing all of his favorite things before the world ends, including his favorite his to do his like bucket list chores,
his dream chores.
Dream chores. Also, women go to a different heaven, and it is also the same same heaven that dogs go. Same hell that like dogs go to. Is that what he said?
Yeah, it's women's hell is dogs with the boners. Heaven.
Yeah. Women's hell. Yep. Yeah, there are some jokes, especially in these two episodes, where I'm like, oh, they didn't age well either. Oh, we're getting to even more of those. I will say an opening with Liz unzipping her fucking jacket, and it's a dickie, and it's just like, less fabric. Welcome to 2012. And I was like, oh wow, we really did just have like, oh look, it's the collar of a shirt, but not an actual full shirt. And I was just very entertained by that. And also that Liz's new boyfriend is played by James Marsden. Also, Liz is on a dance team. And they're being mean to her, and they leave her alone. She's just doing her, like, old lady activities. Good for her.
Yeah, James Marsden. I love him in this show.
Is this the one where they talk about Real Housewives of New York, or is that episode 8?
That's the next one.
Okay, cool, because I have to talk about that.
Yeah, so the end of this episode just, like, gives me all the warm fuzzies because of, like, Liz's relationship dramas through the last 5 years. So the last shot of this set to because Kids Got Singing is doing like royalty free American classic songs so that NBC can rake in the money and not have to pay for song rights. And so it's set to like doo-da, da dun dun, ladies sing that song. And this little kid is singing.
Doo-da.
While Jack realizes that while he thinks he knows everything there is to know about Liz Lemon, she is going to see a movie with a boy. And it feels like real this time. And it just it always makes me so sad, like so happy sad, like just like there is love. But
don't worry, it is contrasted with Kenneth and the boys going to the ocean because Kenneth has never seen the ocean before, and he is in a shirt that just says Rapture and in lime green leggings. My favorite line of this entire episode is when they go, Kenneth, we just saw a flaming horse running down the street. And you're like, that's what preacher said, that homosexual horses were a sign of the end of days.
Yeah. I love it.
But yes, this episode was just incredible. Just watching Jenna just roast children and being excited and it's like, it's also so, it just feels so relevant to today of like getting negative attention is better than no attention, aka Jenna's whole thing. But it's just very funny that even
Jack,
when
they love to hate me.
And you know what? Sometimes Jenna is full of wisdom. Not often, but sometimes she says things that are a little bit, like, mildly insightful. Coated in a nice, just delicious coat of insanity, but still.
My favorite moment or my favorite joke is when Jenna is so excited that like she's getting fame, and she talks about now when people Google me, it's me that comes up, not the woman that electrocuted all those horses. And Liz is like, Jenna, that was you. And she's like, anyway.
Talent walking. I'm now a B-list celebrity.
I made the New York Times crossword. Jenna Maroney's first name.
It's just so good. It's so good.
The more I watch this show, the more I love Jenna more than anyone else.
I know. She's my favorite. I love her.
I think she's mine too.
She's my favorite. But then we get something very different? Question mark? With the
$3,
8th episode.
2 bags, 1 me. Say, where does a young prostitute get her start in the city? Speaking of musical numbers.
Liz Lemon becoming the Joker and Jack Donaghy becoming Batman is truly the most beautiful thing. This episode, poor Jack Donaghy gets mugged, which is like, okay, wow. He gets mugged and is dealing with PTSD from getting violently mugged, which sucks because he had to walk because it was like a 4-block walk.
Joint pain.
For joint pain, but they were moving very slowly. So the poor man gets mugged walking to work. Well, Liz also is complaining about how New York City is a trash heap and everyone is rude. And
someone sneezes into her mouth in the
and
subway.
Honestly, and when she's like, let people get off before going on, I was like, it's still a thing everywhere. So and it was just making me laugh because I was like, I still bitch about this shit.
Yeah.
I
was wondering. I was curious how like relevant and like relatable her character is in this moment because you live in a big city.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously it's not as packed as the subway, and like I have not had to experience that going express like randomly. I have before, like when I was visiting New York, but like during rush hour, no one knows how to use escalators. No one knows how to stand or use the metro properly. I wear a mask now. Like, I mean, wearing a mask on the metro is just the move because everyone's disgusting and sick all the time and like doesn't know how to sneeze or is a gross child. It's it was very relevant in terms of just like, yeah, no, everyone is just like, no one, it's like fucking Mad Max when it comes to rush hour public transportation commuting. So yeah, it's still this way, even in DC. Trash. But, like, you have to do it unless you want to drive, and I don't want to do that shit.
There's a joke in the beginning of this that, like, I think you're going to talk about, but, like, I never clocked until just this episode, just talking about it because of the Real Housewives situation. And I was curious if that made you laugh.
As soon as she said she is a thug in a cocktail dress, I was like, oh my god, no way, they're quoting. And then they start going off about Real Housewives of New York, and it proved all of my theories about Queen of Jordan and the referencing the pop, like Luann de Lesseps specifically, because she says Luann's name, and also Sonia Morgan did have a toaster line. Like, I want everyone to know, especially you, Terry, that everything that Liz said was not fabricated. It is all actual plot lines. So Alex McCord, who said things like, you women are delusional in Manhattan. I am out here in the streets, working, living in Brooklyn. Like she is some kind of hard up, like, woman who lives in a very beautiful home in Brooklyn. She did call Luann de Lesseps a thug in a cocktail dress. And Sonia Morgan did in fact... her claim to fame were her hors d'oeuvres she made in her toaster oven. So she was going to make her own line of toaster ovens and toaster oven cookbook. And it was like for multiple seasons, people were wondering when it was going to come out. And they never did because it was all just like for the storyline on Real Housewives.
Amazing.
My encyclopedic knowledge is finally paying off.
Who knew?
I was like, wow, they got the big. I know. I was like, wow, they really like went into the New York City, like the Real Housewives of New York. Like several lines of not like a quick joke. Like she kept talking, and I was like, wow, they're fans for real, because they're name dropping these bitches, actual women.
Yeah.
So yeah, that just made me like very, very excited. Because it yeah. And I was excited to talk about it. I was like, I can explain that all of this is actually real and not one lick of what she said about Real Housewives was fabricated. It is all 100% out of the show. Anyway.
Wild.
Yes.
Wild. We also have Jenna and Paul, her boyfriend, finding a new sexual kink called normaling. where they act as normal people and they don't climax once, and they don't realize until someone has to point it out to them that that's just them doing couples stuff.
I also forgot who. What's his name? Not Will Arnett. What's that man's name who plays her husband, her boyfriend?
Why did I just lose Will Forte?
Okay, I knew it was Will. Will Forte, and he comes home from a business trip and is tired, and instead of having sex in her edible nightgown that tastes like breadsticks and she has marinara dipping sauce, which actually is hysterical, I would buy that and try it because I have to know. But they just talk and then fall asleep together, and they're like, wait, what? And then they go to Bath and Body Works and buy new placemats, and they're like, oh, I haven't even orgasmed yet. And then everyone's like, no, that's just like being a normal couple.
Just being a couple. And so that ends up like sending them spiraling and breaking up so that they can go on a sexual walkabout.
And you know what? Honestly, though, clear communication between partners and consensual communication is very important. And honestly, they display that in spades here. It's insane, and I know it's for comedic value, but if you think about it, they are open and honest with each other about their sexual needs. And really,
they have
can't be mad at them for that.
No, they for a storyline in which Jenna is dating a Jenna Maroney drag impersonator who is straight and works a bar with other straight drag queens. It's surprisingly wholesome and like probably one of the more healthy relationships on the show.
It is because they are on the same page and like want the same things and like communicate. And like on the other hand, we have fucking Liz. Who was oh wait, hold on. Oh no, I watched an episode. I watched another extra episode, so I'm trying to make sure I'm not like putting them together. Because I watched one where Jack was like a ghost when she was like hanging out with her boyfriend. And I think I watched a different episode. Sorry, I'm getting my episodes mixed up. This is where Liz gets to play an old woman for a sketch, and then she uses that and her stinky gym bag to wreak havoc on the city and be a nasty gremlin. And honestly, again, 10 out of 10 moment where she is like eating eggs with her open mouth and has a stinky gym bag, which is repulsive, but like love that. But again, they're like having nasty girl, like nasty gross gym bag. Again, please don't do that. But she's terrorizing the city with her stinkiness so she can get whatever she wants and no one will bother her. But, like, I get it.
The madness of the city, and I totally get it. I
love it.
She's like, I cracked the code.
I cracked the code. And then poor Jack is, like, holed up and, like, hasn't left his office. And his baby is at a baby leadership conference, so it's perfect timing.
Of course.
So he is agoraphobic and won't leave his office because he's scared of getting mugs, which is like a very real PTSD reaction to getting mugged. And he's wearing a tux because it's all he has at the office. And he only has tux cufflinks at the office, and he cannot wear tux cufflinks with a regular suit because who would do that? What madman would do that? So he's wearing a tux. Liz starts like smearing lipstick on her face. Before we get a confrontation between the Joker though and Batman, we have Steve Buscemi's character. We have the iconic moment of like, how do you do, fellow kids? That meme comes in as he's investigating whatever, and it's very funny that we just get Jack wants to now run for office, and now we have a full-blown Batman versus Joker situation in which Jack gets to take down Liz, who's the Joker, and he saves the day from the old witch that has been harassing the citizens of New York on the subway.
And then he decides not to run for mayor anymore because he got what he wanted. And that is, I mean, this is true politics. He decides to get into politics for personal selfish reasons. And then once he realizes that he doesn't need to have those selfish needs like fulfilled, I don't need to be mayor anymore.
It is politics. It's very funny.
Rich, white, conservative politics.
It's true. Well, where are we going next? Where to next at 30 Rock?
All right. Speaking of like memes, we are going with the episode Leap Day finally with Leap Day Williams, episode 9, and then episode 10, Alexis Good Looking and the Case of the Missing Whiskey. Um
All right.
yeah.
Hell yeah. Neat. Neat.
And I'm glad you watched the second episode because you know that James Marsden, because like I realized after, like, they only show the back of his head in the first episode. So
Yeah.
like, and then we skip ahead to episode like 6, and so like you don't even see who her new boyfriend is. So I'm kind of
I
glad
was
you
playing
saw
my
it
Switch
today.
and just like kind of let it keep going. So yeah.
But that's what we're watching next week. But who are we chatting with on Monday, Mary Beth?
So Monday, we are chatting with Chris Vanderkay. He is the writer and director of the movie Ask that I was lucky enough to help produce. And he brought with him Cloak and Dagger, the most fucked up kids spy movie I think I've ever seen.
Yeah. Surprisingly a really good movie.
Yeah.
I really dug this one, and this is definitely kinder trauma territory. I was
Yes.
surprised at how dark it was. But again, written by Tom Holland, directed by the guy that did Psycho 2, whose name just escaped my brain, doing a kids movie
Neat. It's fucking
with a
weird.
lot of violence towards kids.
And
Go for it.
a baby Henry Thomas too, which is neat.
Yeah.
But listeners, you've heard from us. We want to hear from you. Did you watch something we watched and have thoughts? Do you have thoughts about what we should be covering, especially as we're getting towards the end of the year? Is there anything we should be watching before end of the year?
Yes,
I need to
please.
start getting my list together.
Same.
Send us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach us on social media. I am on Twitter and Blue Sky at mbmcandrews and on Instagram at mb.mcandrews.
And I'm at Gilly Dreadful everywhere, except I am not checking Twitter. So if you want to reach out to me, Blue Sky is probably the best place.
You should probably go follow us on social media for the podcast. We are on Twitter and Blue Sky, mostly just Blue Sky at Scarred Podcast, and we are on Instagram at Scarred for Life Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe. And if you want to help support us, we do have a Patreon.
Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there, and also please stay creepy.
And until next time.